Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. We have been on hiatus since the last podcast last year. Been taking a brief break over the summer, but this will be our first one leading into the new year, the new 2019 football season here at the Capstone, the University of Alabama. This is DC, your host, and my partner, Lance Shores, is back in the studio. He's the one that makes it look so good on the internet and makes it sound so good. So Lance and I will be partnering together for another year of looking at the Capstone sports and looking specifically for Alabama football. Today in the podcast, we're going to, in the very first segment, we're going to take a look at just a review of the Alabama sports, things that have happened at the Capstone, things that we're excited about since the last podcast. In our second segment, we're going to take a look at the football team specifically in the fourth quarter conditioning program that's been taking place. And then our third and final segment, we'll preview the upcoming SEC Media Days that'll take place in Hoover, Alabama next week.
The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on Tide 102.9, The Morning Blitz with Martin Houston. You can listen live at Tide1029.com.
Well, it's glad to be back at the mic and doing another podcast. I know of our listeners out there have been tuning in to the Blitz with Martin Houston on Tuesday mornings. I've still been doing my segment on there each Tuesday morning at 6:15. You can catch me on there at Tide1029.com, where we discuss all things Alabama and specifically on Alabama football there with Martin Houston, the show that he is in charge of there on the Tide 102.9. And I think it's been a really good opportunity for the podcast to get that exposure and see what we're doing and kind of getting it to a different level. Lance has been doing a great job, and during this hiatus, he's been posting up some great videos. Hope you've had a chance to look at that. You can check us out at dccapstonereport.com, but also if you're listening to this podcast, you can move over to rolltidebama.com or freelancepictures.com. Lance has got some wonderful pictures. If you're into any kind of photography, Lance has got some great pictures on there that you can look at. Especially check out his hummingbird videos, where he's even got hummingbirds that are trained to eat right out of the palm of his hand. So those are some neat videos. If you're one of our listeners, you might want to check out as well. Well, with Lance and I look forward to bringing you another good year of the DC Capstone Report. Normally, we focus on Alabama football. This first segment, I want to talk about what all the different sports, and there's some excitement here at the Capstone. Just see a different level of things that have been going on around here, and it kind of started in this off season after our podcast went off for the hiatus. Some things took place with the Alabama softball team, and I just want to give a shout out to the Alabama softball team, Coach Patrick Murphy. Just thought they did a fantastic job of playing and representing the University of Alabama both in the SEC tournament and then on a national level at the College World Series. And just to see them compete at that high level again is really exciting. What's more exciting is we've got some players coming back on a team that finished the top four. Got this year coming back. Looks like we're going to have a great opportunity to put another team on the field that can compete for a national championship. So it's wonderful to see that going on. We had also competition in Alabama in rowing, in tennis, all at the top levels, championship levels, and competing for championships. We've also had the golf team in contention for championships, and they've been doing well in the off season, just like as we expect our teams to do. A couple of teams I want to focus on here before we get to football is one is our baseball team. You know, I had a privilege of watching a lot of the baseball games this year, and although the record didn't seem different, boy, the team makeup seems different under Coach Bohannon. I just want to give a shout out to Coach Bohannon. I think he and his staff have been doing a great job there. Matt Rada, a volunteer assistant coach, coaches first base for the team. If you watch any of the games, he's been doing a great job on the recruiting trail. We've got some good recruits coming in. For the first time, I think, in about 11 years, we've got some recruits that have been selected in the Major League Baseball draft considering coming to Alabama. We haven't been recruiting that type of talent in the past, and it's just good. It just gives you a good vote of confidence to the coach, Coach Bohannon and his staff, by going out there and getting some great players. So I look for great things in our baseball this coming year, and we might level off, but I think in the years ahead, especially 2 or 3 years from now, we could be competing for championships in baseball. Another area that I'm really excited about at the Capstone is our basketball team. Our basketball team under new coach Nate Oates, there's an excitement here at Coleman Coliseum, around Coleman Coliseum, that I haven't seen in basketball, I'd say, since a long time. I go back to the Wimp Sanderson days, my days here at the Capstone. How exciting it looks like that Coach Oates is going to put a team on the court that's going to immediately be able to compete for an SEC championship. And I think his goal is to get to the national championship and win it, to make it to the Final Four and do good. So I think this year he's counting on this team even getting his first year into the NCAA tournament, which I think that would be a monumental task to do. But he is one of the things I've been impressed about is he's changing the culture of Alabama basketball. I don't think we were in the last several seasons. I don't think we were very well in shape. I just don't think we would compete on a higher level because of our conditioning. And one thing I've seen in this basketball team is really work on conditioning. And this team is going to light up the baskets. I mean, they're going to shoot. Everybody's going to shoot from the center all the way to the point guard, going to shoot threes. And it's going to be up and down the floor and play good defense and get the rebound and shoot the ball. So I think it's going to be some exciting offense to see at Coleman. And I look for Coleman to be packed out when the basketball starts there in November. So I'm really impressed with Coach Nate Oates and what he's been able to do. And our football team over this past offseason, I really am excited about where we're heading. You know, we ended on a tough note there with a loss, a very bad loss to Clemson. And there were some things that came out after that loss from players on the team talking about other players had not bought in. And then we heard Coach Saban at the end of that year, before the beginning of this offseason workouts, how we need to get back to the Bama factor. And I think that that's something that Alabama football is going to do and concentrate on, and that's something I've seen that's even started in these off-season workouts. And we'll talk about that in the second segment coming up, about Alabama football getting back to the Alabama factor. Well, our second segment here, we're going to focus on this Alabama football team and this fourth quarter off-season conditioning program. I think it was the first step in what Coach Saban said we need to do is get back to the Alabama factor. And he talked about the Alabama factor, the process of not being selfish, for playing for the team. And I think that kind of gives you an indication that some of the players were saying at the end of the last year happened, that some players started playing for themselves and not playing for the team, weren't team players, and their selfishness got in the way of the bigger goal of competing for and winning a championship. And so I think that's a sour taste in the mouth of Coach Saban, a sour taste in the mouth of the players that are left on the team coming back this year of what happened with Clemson. And I think they're going to use that. I've always said that Coach Saban coaches much better off of a failure than he does off of a victory. So I'm thinking that this year is going to be one of those years. And I think it started in the off-season conditioning program, the fourth quarter program. You know, Coach Cochran has been the solid standing coach, has stayed with Coach Saban since the beginning, and he's been that consistent bell cow for him that puts out the message. And I was so taken aback by one of the statements that Coach Cochran tweeted out at the beginning of the year, right before they started the off-season conditioning program. And this is the statement that he said, and it really hit me. It's for anybody listening out there in your life as a person, in your business life, if you're competing in sports, if you're just trying to be the best father or husband that you can be. This is a statement that you really need to hang on to. It's something that really changed the way I think about my performance in the different areas that I'm a leader in. And this is what he said. He said, and he was quoting someone else, but this is the quote that he said. He said, if your presence does not make an impact, then your absence won't make a difference. Now think about that. Let that sink in. He was saying that to his football team before they were about to begin these off-season workouts. And Coach Saban trying to get them back to the Alabama factor. And what I think he's trying to tell them is you got to make an impact with everything you do. And if you're not making an impact with your presence, then don't expect to be moving up and being a leader and contributing, because if you don't make an impact with your presence, then your absence is not going to make a difference. So I think that's something that he started off with that was really telling that, hey, we're trying to get back to this Alabama factor, to stick to the process, to only control what you can control, go one play at a time, and let the outcome speak for itself. And if you do all those things correct and you do everything to the best of your ability, then the outcomes will come. And quit trying to focus on the outcome, but focus on the process to get to the outcome. And looking at some of the things that are happening in this off-season training program, we've seen some of the players who really shed some pounds. We saw some players who needed to gain weight, really gain some muscle and gain some weight. You don't have to look any further than our quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. He actually has taken off some weight. I think that he's in probably the best shape of his life. I think he's poised for a great season this year, and we're going to need him to have that season. But that's just a microcosm of the whole team. Everybody on the team needs to buy in to do the best they can be to make the most impact they can make for the team. And I think that's what Coach Cochran has been doing during these off-season workouts. And I think we're going to see that translate on the field next year. We've seen some of these players getting stronger. There's just been videos has been posted on Twitter of the weight room, these small little snippets of what's going on. We just get a glimpse into it. But we've seen some of the young players really, really lifting some heavy weights. We've seen some of the older players that are seniors, fifth-year seniors, buying in and lifting those heavy weights. Seen them running the stadium steps, just pushing in that extra mile. There's been some tweets from different players about, focusing on the process. And I think all of that gives you an indication that what Coach Cochran is doing, he's that voice, getting that message out to the team of what Coach Saban said in the beginning. Hey, we're going to get back to Alabama football, back to the Alabama factor. And I think what that's going to entail is being in good enough shape that you can, this fourth quarter program, that you can play in the fourth quarter. And you want to do what no one else is doing today so that you can do what no one else is doing in the games. And I think that's what they're trying to translate in the field, so that you're the best you can be throughout the game. And getting back to the Alabama factor, I believe, is part of that, is being so in shape, being so powerful that you impose your will on the other team and you make the other team quit, that they get tired of seeing you coming, that they don't want to play you next play, they don't want to go up against you. And I think that's what this off-season program has been able to do. So I'm excited about where the football team is. I look forward to seeing this translate on the field and going on to the next step. Now, there's some things that have happened over the summer. There's been great things. I said when we stopped our podcast on the last time before we had our last show, I said, hey, if it's real quiet over the summer and nothing comes out of any bad situations, I think we're going to have a really good indication everybody's focused on the process. I made a statement. Coach Saban talked about at the end that his hip needed surgery, and I said, well, if the biggest story of Alabama football is that Coach Saban had hip surgery, that'll be great for the offseason. And so far, that's rang true. He had his hip surgery and everything went well, and he's back out there better than he ever has been before. And that's important, because there's been no off-season issues that have distracted the players. That up until today. Now, today there was a story that broke while the players are, in these off-season workouts. There was a story that broke about Coach Saban's flirtation with Texas from way back after our win over Notre Dame in the national championship. Now, it's been a long time ago, a lot of water in the bridge since then, and there's been a lot of speculation on each side as to who's telling the truth and what was said. And was it Coach Saban just getting his agent just getting him more money, that some have said, or was he really looking to leave? Had he become complacent? I don't think we have to worry about those issues again. Those are 6 years ago issues that have just been need to be put to rest. Coach Saban is here to stay. Those are those off-season distractions that you can bet that get people talking and get people thinking. So what I was saying before is true. Less distractions make the team focus on what they need to focus on to get him back to the Alabama factor. And I'm sure in the days ahead, if it's maintained like it is, and we keep talking about the football team, every one of the players are going to be better for it when they come out of these off-season workouts getting ready for the fall practice. Well, in our final segment, we're going to preview SEC Media Days. SEC Media Days are back in Alabama, back in Hoover, at the Winfrey Hotel there, at their usual stage. They moved away. They're coming back for 1 year. We got an opportunity, hopefully, next week we're going to be able to cover this. We're hoping right now if we can get Lance on the ground there in Hoover. There was some great videos with some pictures. He'll post those up on our page. So we can kind of give you as the time goes next week. So our preview, hopefully right now that's in the works, that Lance will be able to go and get access and get some videos put up. And we're hoping for that to give you next week. Next week we'll have just a report back on what's going on, what we expect from media days. But today, just a preview looking at, I just spoke about that little issue that was brought up about Coach Saban's flirtation with Texas. The question is, will anybody have enough guts in the media to ask that question to Coach Saban? I think he would pretty much cut them off at the knees if they did, because I think it's a non-story, just somebody trying to make up a story. But they did announce today the players that Alabama is going to take to the SEC Media Days, and that's Tua Tagovailoa, Jerry Jeudy, and Dylan Moses, which I think are your three of the players that are going to make a big impact in the season this year. And I look for Tua and Jerry Jeudy to really have a breakout season, even better than last year. Getting back to this Alabama factor of running the ball to set up the pass, and getting away a little bit from that finesse blocking into more power blocking and protecting the quarterback. So I think those three players will get some good insight. And Dylan Moses is going to be the leader of the defense. It's going to be his defense. He's going to be the play caller. So it's going to be looking. I think if I were listeners out there, I would watch for these players' interviews and kind of get an idea. When Coach Saban speaks, I believe he'll set the tone for what the season is going to be like. Getting back to the Alabama factor is probably going to be that, getting back to the process. And I think these players are going to kind of single that message. It'll be a single message, and they'll start repeating that message throughout their talks. But I believe these three players are players that you can get some information from if they're asked the right questions. So I would encourage all of our listeners out there to kind of listen to their reporters, answering the reporters' questions, and listen to their statements. And I think you'll get an insight into where the psyche of this team. I expect that they're going to come out and they're going to mirror the coach, that they're disappointed from last season and they're looking forward to what they're going to do this season to make an impact into changing this thing around. I think our schedule is going to be set up well for us to compete again for a national championship. I look for us to be undefeated and playing in the SEC championship and then going on to the college football playoff championships. But that's where I think we're headed, and I think these players with the right mindset, these three, and Tua, Jerry Jeudy, and Dylan Moses, I think can lead us there. So it's great to see them being the ones chosen to go to media days. Just watch next week and see what Coach Saban is able to say. You'll hear the message that he wants to try to get to his team. He uses the media to get the message to the team, message to his coaches. He uses that media to get his message out. And I think then you'll hear his players mirror that and begin to kind of get you an idea in where the team's head is. Now, this starts the football season, the SEC Media Days. Soon after that, they'll be back on campus and workouts, and we'll be having reports leading up to the first game against Duke there in the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic. So until next time, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report.
A lot. We got a bunch with the Raiders. How about any Bear Bryant?
Oh,
Ken
gosh.
where's Ken at? I want to hear when he kicked you out.
Coach Bryant.
Coach Bryant.
I hurt my knee in the spring after my junior year. We were we finished number 3 in the country, and I had a knee injury in the spring before my senior year. And Coach Bryant says, "Don't practice, just stay off your knee and get your knee well," and that sort of thing. And I got bored with the whole thing because I wasn't practicing and I didn't give a shit about school and things like that. And so I started kind of running around. We would have a study hall, 7:30 to 9 o'clock over at Bryant Hall at the A dorm. And so I would take off from there after study hall at 9 o'clock, and I was running around with this girl in Mobile. And so I'd jump in the car and drive 3.5 hours to Mobile, spend 3.5 hours with my girlfriend, jump back in the car and drive 3.5 hours back to Tuscaloosa, get back there at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning for an 8 o'clock class, which I never went to. And so Coach Bryant suspended me. And he suspended me, and I got a telegram from him down at my parents' house. I got a telegram from Coach Bryant that says, "You have been indefinitely suspended." I got a telegram the next day from Joe Namath, and it said he means it, because Joe had gone through the same thing. And one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was to go in and ask Coach Brown if I could get back on the team. Jimmy Sharp was a coach at Alabama. Pat Dye was a coach at Alabama then. They took good care of me. I mean, they babysat me and tried to get me back eligible and that sort of thing. And I did. I went back to summer school and became eligible to play at Alabama. And then Jimmy Sharp, Pat Dye came up to me and he said, "You got to go meet with Coach Bryant. You got to go in there and sit down with Coach Bryant and tell him that you're now eligible by SEC standards to play football." So I went in there to sit down and talk to Coach Bryant and tell him that I was now eligible to play. Well, Coach Bryant's office, and they've got a replica of it in Bryant Museum now, and it's got his desk, and it sits on a platform about that high, you know, and it's got a couch right in front of his desk. And that couch is real soft, and you sink down in it. And so when you go in there to sit down and talk to him, you sit like this, and you talk to him kind of like this, you know, you're kind of looking straight up at him, just intimidated to hell and back. And so I go in there and I told Coach Bryant, I said, "Coach, I'm now eligible to play by SEC standards, and I've gone back to summer school, and I've done everything necessary to play again." And he said, "You don't deserve to be on this team. Get the hell out of here." And so I said, "Well, I'm coming back out anyway this fall." He said, "Well, we'll see about this." So Jimmy Sharp and Pat Dye came to me later and said, "Coach Bryant says you can come back out for the team because you wouldn't take no for an answer." He says that's the reason he lets you come back out. So at Alabama, when you play for Alabama, the color jersey that you wear dictates the team that you're on. The red jersey's first team, white jersey second team, blue jersey third team, orange jersey fourth team, green jersey fifth team. And Coach Bryant had a thing that he would call you when you were out of favor with him, when he was mad at you. You made a bad play, you didn't go to school, you screwed up. He'd call you a turd. And that six-team jersey was brown. And I was coming off of a junior year. I was SEC. I was an All-American player and All-SEC and MVP in the Sugar Bowl my junior year and that sort of thing. And I come back out after getting back on the team, and I go get my basket from the equipment manager, and I got a brown jersey in my basket. I'm a six-team quarterback, and I had to work my hardest thing I've ever had to do. Had to work my way back through all those colors, you know, work my way back through all those colors, and he had all kind of drills built for me, you know, that he'd go try to kill me. He took the linebackers and he'd line them all up there, and a center, and me under the center. And he'd say, "All right, you take the ball and you sprint out," and all the linebackers, and it was guys like Paul Crane, and guys like Tim Bates, and guys like Jackie Sherrill, all tough people. You know, and I'm a, you know, little quarterback, and I got to take the ball and sprint out, and their job was to put a hat on me. Put the hat on me. Don't tackle him. Just go butt him, you know, and butt him in the face, butt him in the chest, butt him. And I had to sprint out this way, and all six of them, pow, 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 pow. Now go the other way. Pow, 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 pow. And I worked my way, that kind of drill, every day for 3 weeks. And I worked my way back up through all those jerseys, and there was no way he would ever let me start, you know. So I worked my way all the way back up to a white jersey, and I was second team, and Joe Kelly was going to start the game. We opened up my senior year with Florida State. We played Florida. Bill Peterson was the coach then. We played Florida State in Birmingham. And so Joe Kelly was going to start. There's no way in hell he would have let me start. And so we go out there and we win the toss. They kick off to us, and Joe Kelly gets the ball, and we go 3 and out. We go 3 and out. Joe Kelly comes off, and I'm standing right beside Coach Bryant. I'm standing right beside him, you know, and he's 6'4", 250, smoking that Chesterfield and a houndstooth hat, and, you know, and I'm a skinny little kid from Foley. And I'm standing right beside him, and after we go 3 and out, second series, we get the ball back, and he hit me in the back and almost knocked the breath. Pow! Go! I said, go play. And so I went back in. It was a 37-37 tie. We were number 3 team in the country. Florida State was not ranked at all. And we were 37-37 tie, and he took us back to Tuscaloosa, and 6:30 the next morning when we tell stories about him getting you back out there at 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning, and he'd get you out there and run you to death and try to kill you. And that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do was get back on that team, go through moving up the food chain on that team, and then getting to play again. Yeah.
How'd y'all wind up that year?
My senior year, number 7 in the country.
Number
We were
7.
8-2-1, I think. 8-2-1. Tennessee won the SEC that year. The 3 varsity years we were there. We were 28-3-2. We were 28-3-2. Tennessee beat us my senior year. Tennessee tied us my sophomore year. Texas A&M beat us in the Cotton Bowl my senior year. Georgia beat us my sophomore year, 18-17. We were 28-3-2. We won 2 SEC championships, 1 national championship. But because of Coach Bryant is the reason I get to go into the next level, because he wouldn't let me throw it all away, and I was very capable of doing that, you know, by not conforming to his rules and not being what he wanted me to be and not being the kind of player I should be and doing what was right. But he grabbed me by the nape of the neck and kicked me in the ass and made me do what I was supposed to do. And, you know, as they say, it's history. Then I go in and play 15 years of pro football, and without him saving me, so to speak, who knows? I'd be, you know, be doing something else. I'd be whatever, you know, bartending or whatever. Coach Bryant.